Ever crack open a bag of M&Ms and like really think about how they got so iconic?
Yeah.
Well, today we're doing exactly that. We're peeling back the candy coating and taking a deep dive into the surprisingly crazy history and huge cultural impact of these little chocolate buttons,
Sounds fun.
right? And to help us with this deep dive, we're going to be using excerpts from this article called Pasted Text.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, get ready for some, I don't know about you, but I was surprised by some of these twists and turns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, did you know that M&Ms were like a military ration?
Oh, wow.
And then, like, what's the deal with that whole decade where they just, like, stopped making red ones?
I'd forgotten about that.
Right? It's like one of those weird little things you kind of remember but don't really remember.
Yeah, totally.
So maybe we should start with how it all began. I mean, we all know M&Ms, but how did they come to be?
Well, it's pretty fascinating. They actually started as like a solution for soldiers during World War II. Believe it or not, they were inspired by Smarties, another candy-coated chocolate.
Smarties. Oh, now we're going to have to explain that one. We've got soldiers and chocolate. What's the connection to Smarties?
So Forrest Mars Sr., he noticed that during the Spanish Civil War, chocolate was a logistical nightmare in the heat, melted way too easily. But Smarties, with that hard candy shell,
They stay intact.
exactly. That sparked the idea for M&Ms, which stands for, and I bet a lot of people don't know this, Mars and Murrie. Bruce Murrie was the son of the president of Hershey Chocolate. He was a super important partner, especially when it came to getting those precious chocolate rations during the war.
So the whole melts in your mouth, not in your hand slogan, it wasn't just some clever marketing, it was a wartime necessity.
You got it. Durability and portability were huge selling points for soldiers back then, and then, of course, that practicality just naturally carried over to the civilian market when the war was over.
That makes sense. But then you mentioned that thing about the red M&Ms disappearing in the 70s?
Yeah, so in the 1970s, out of nowhere, red M&Ms vanished.
Just like that.
Yeah, pretty much. There was all this public concern over red food dyes, even though M&Ms never actually used the specific ones that people were worried about, but Mars decided to pull them from the shelves anyway.
Wow, that's crazy. It really shows you the power of public perception, huh? Even for like a huge brand like M&Ms.
Definitely.
And that's how orange M&Ms came about. I never knew that.
It is.
But wait, red M&Ms are back now, so what happened? What brought them back?
So about a decade later, this college student starts a tongue-in-cheek campaign to bring back the red M&Ms, and somehow it went viral.
No way.
Yeah, the pressure from that campaign actually worked. Red M&Ms made their triumphant return in 1987. But get this,
What?
Mars decided to keep the orange ones too.
Oh, interesting.
So they expanded the color options, right? Was it a happy accident or was it a brilliant marketing move? It's hard to say for sure, but I mean, it definitely worked out well for M&Ms and people loved the new variety.
Talk about turning a PR challenge into a total win. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, our article also mentioned Crispy M&Ms.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like those were around for a
They
while.
were for a time, yeah. Introduced in 1998, I believe.
Okay.
They were different. They had that unique wafer center, so it gave them like a satisfying crunch. But their time in the spotlight was pretty short-lived. They were gone by 2005.
Oh, that's right. Why was that?
Well, there's this crazy rumor floating around, totally unsubstantiated, of course, that Saddam Hussein was a huge fan of Crispy M&Ms.
Wait, what?
I know, right? And the rumor is that his fondness for them somehow led to their demise.
Like how?
It's not clear. Some people say it was pressure from activist groups, maybe even the U.S. government, who didn't want to be seen as like supporting a dictator's favorite snack. But there's really no concrete evidence to back any of that up. It's a wacky story, but it's interesting how something as simple as candy can get tangled up in these wild narratives,
It really makes you wonder. I remember I was super bummed when they disappeared, though.
Oh, me too. I actually think they made a brief comeback in 2015. Did you know that?
No, I totally missed that.
Yeah, so Crispy M&Ms, they're gone for now, but their legacy live on in a way. The orange M&M mascot, the one known for his anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he became pretty closely associated with Crispy M&Ms, even though they weren't around anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, and for those of us who still crave that crunch, there's always Crunchy Cookie M&Ms. Those came out in 2022.
Oh, right. I forgot about those.
So maybe this new iteration will stick around longer. Who knows?
Time will tell. But speaking of the mascots, I mean, you've got red, yellow, green, blue. They're all so iconic. They've taken on lives of their own, really.
They have.
It seems like M&M marketing has always been pretty bold, even early on.
You're right about that. In fact, there was this really surprising decision they made back in the early 80s. M&M's actually turned down Steven Spielberg's request to feature them in the movie E.T.
Wait, hold on. Seriously. M&M's could have been the candy that E.T. used to, like, communicate with Elliot.
That's right. Can you imagine?
That's wild. What happened? Why did they turn it down?
It seems like Mars was just a little bit hesitant at the time. Maybe they weren't sure about aligning their brand with, extraterrestrials.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. But their decision had some pretty major consequences. Reese's Pieces, their competitor,
Mm-hmm.
they jumped at the chance and their sales absolutely skyrocketed. Some estimates say they went up by as much as 300%.
Wow. Talk about a missed opportunity for M&Ms. You kind of wonder if they ever regretted that decision. But hey, at least they went on to create those awesome mascots and partnered with other big movies, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The introduction of red, yellow, green, blue, and then later orange, each with those distinct personalities, it brought a whole new level of humor and relatability to the brand.
Right.
And those commercials with their witty banter, I mean, they cemented their place in pop culture for sure.
They did. And they didn't stop there. They were in Shrek, Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
You name it, they were in it. And don't forget about the personalized My M&M's service.
Oh, yeah. I remember those being a huge hit. You could print custom messages on M&Ms.
That's right, it was pure genius. It really tapped into that growing desire for personalization. People loved being able to create unique gifts and add a personal touch to special occasions. And it's a perfect example of how M&M's has consistently adapted to evolving consumer trends.
So we've covered military origins, color controversies, a touch of pop culture. It seems like M&Ms really are more than meets the eye.
They certainly are.
But what about the future? I mean, where does a brand like this go from here?
That's a great question.
Well, we're going to get into that and more in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll be exploring the exciting innovations and potential evolution of M&Ms in a world that's being driven by technology and constantly changing consumer preferences, so stay tuned.
This is going to be good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of M&Ms. We've been through their history, talked about some pretty surprising marketing moments, but now I kind of want to know what's next for these little guys? Like, how do they stay relevant in a world where, technology's changing everything and people's tastes are always evolving?
Well, you bring up a really good point. I mean, think about it. Everything's becoming so personalized. You've got virtual reality, artificial intelligence, all things that a brand like M&M's, with that focus on customization and connecting with people, could really tap into.
So are we talking like virtual M&Ms worlds? Like, could we be designing our own avatars and like hanging out with red and yellow in some virtual M&Ms universe?
Honestly, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Imagine putting on a VR headset and suddenly, boom, you're in this vibrant, colorful M&M's world. You could create your own personalized M&M character, experiment with all sorts of wacky flavor combinations, go on adventures. The possibilities are pretty wild.
Okay, I gotta admit, that sounds pretty awesome. I'd probably never want to leave. But what about AI? You mentioned that. How could that play a role in the future of M&Ms?
Well, just imagine AI being used to analyze tons of data on people's flavor preferences, right? And then using that data to create totally new, hyper-personalized M&M's flavors. Maybe even flavors tailored to specific regions or demographics.
Whoa, so instead of just like peanut M&Ms, we could have AI design spicy peanut butter and sriracha M&Ms for people who like it hot.
Exactly, and that's just scratching the surface. I mean, AI could also be used to optimize the whole production process, make things more efficient, more sustainable.
Right, because sustainability is a big deal these days, and it's only going to get bigger, right?
Absolutely. And Mars, the parent company of M&M's, they're already making moves in that direction. They're doing a lot of research into things like renewable materials for packaging, finding ways to reduce waste throughout their supply chain, all that good stuff.
So maybe in the future we'll be seeing M&M's bags made from plant-based plastics or something like that.
It's definitely a possibility. And that's the thing. Sustainability, it's not just some passing trend anymore. It's really a core value that's driving innovation in all sorts of industries, and the candy world's no exception.
It's cool how M&M's manages to stay true to itself while also innovating for the future. Speaking of global reach, though, our article also mentions some region-specific flavors. What's that all about?
Well, it's a pretty smart way to appeal to different tastes around the world. Like in Latin America, they have dulce de leche M&Ms, and in Australia, you could find coconut M&Ms.
Wow, it's like a taste of different cultures all wrapped up in that classic candy shell. What other unique flavors do you think they might come up with?
Ooh, that's a good one. Who knows? Maybe we'll see matcha green tea M&Ms in Japan, mango lassi M&Ms in India, or even some savory options like salted caramel and black pepper M&Ms.
Okay, now I'm officially hungry. But seriously, it's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities how M&Ms can keep evolving and adapting.
It really is. It shows how much stand power they have. For generations, they've managed to stay relevant by always innovating, but without losing sight of their core identity.
So, if we're an average M&Ms fan, what should we be looking out for in the coming years? What's the future hold?
Well, I think we can definitely expect the future of M&Ms to be more personalized, more immersive, more sustainable. So buckle up. I think we're in for even more experimentation with flavors, packaging, even the way we experience the brand as a whole.
It's amazing when you think about it. We started with wartime rations, and now we're talking about virtual worlds and AI-designed flavors. Who knew there was so much to discover about M&Ms?
It really highlights how even something as seemingly simple as a candy can actually be a reflection of bigger cultural trends, technological advancements, and how our values as consumers are changing.
Exactly. And in part 3 of this deep dive, we're going to wrap things up by looking at the bigger picture. What does the enduring popularity of M&Ms really tell us about ourselves? Stay tuned. Okay, so we've talked about the history of M&Ms, we've talked about the marketing, we've even peeked into the future a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I want to know, like, what does it all mean? Why do these little candies, why do they resonate so much with us?
You know, it's really remarkable when you think about it. M&Ms have become such a part of our lives.
Yeah.
It's more than just the chocolate itself. It's the memories. It's the associations people have with them. It's like they tap into this sense of, I don't know, familiarity, comfort.
Yeah, they're like that friend that's always been there.
Exactly.
Like, you know you're going to be there, but they still manage to surprise you sometimes.
And that's the key, right? They've got that balance of tradition and innovation.
Hmm.
Like they know we want that familiar feeling, but they also know we want to be delighted. We want to be intrigued, maybe even challenged a little bit.
It's like, remember when they turned down that ET product placement?
Oh, yeah.
That was a bold move. I mean, it didn't work out the way they probably planned.
But
Then they came back with the mascots, the partnerships with all those other movies, and it's like,
they always figure it out.
yeah, they do.
And even the things that maybe didn't work out perfectly, it shows that they're willing to experiment, to learn and to evolve.
It's almost like we like them more because they're willing to take risks.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to be playful, to have fun, and to really connect with people on like an emotional level, which is really smart.
And it's a reminder that brands aren't just about products anymore.
Right.
It's about creating an experience, an emotion, a connection. And M&Ms, they've really nailed that.
So the next time you're holding that bag of M&Ms, remember, it's not just chocolate. It's like a tiny little piece of history, of innovation, of pop culture, all wrapped up in one.
It just goes to show that even the simple things can have these really complex and fascinating stories behind them.
Yeah, it's like that saying, there are worlds within worlds, right?
Exactly.
We just have to be curious enough to look for them.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this, right?
Totally.
You get to uncover those hidden stories and see the world in a whole new light.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
If M&Ms could talk, what stories would they tell? What would they say about the world they've seen over all these years?
Something to think about next time you reach for a handful of those colorful little candies. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. As always, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and comment below.
Yeah, leave us your thoughts.
Let us know what you think.
And don't forget to check out the links in the description. You might find some useful stuff there. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.